Hi there. I'm just going to have a look at the first screens of Premiere Pro. So a lot of people out there, when they get hands on new software, understandably just want to kind of dive right in and start to figure things out. And Premiere Pro can be quite confusing because of the first couple of screens, you're bombarded with information. And if you're not used to kind of video and film editing terminology, it can be quite confusing. So I thought I'd just make a quick video that goes over these and hopefully would explain some of these screens, what they mean, which ones are important and which ones aren't so important, and get you into the Premiere Pro interface so you can start playing and start editing as quickly and easily as possible. What I won't be doing is going into any editing techniques or any of the Premiere interface in detail. It's literally just those first few screens to get you in so you can start messing around and having a play. So let's go ahead and load Premiere up, get out of the woods here. So click on Premiere, and if for the very first time you're launching this, you won't see any recent projects. That'll be blank, so you have to start a new project. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now, if you a lot of programs that load up, you're sort of greeted with a welcome screen, and there's usually a OK, or click this button, or there's an exit or cancel button. Now Premiere Pro, if you click exit, well, it does exactly that, throws you right back to the desktop. So you can't kind of get around this one. So we're going to go through. So let's load it up again, and this time we'll play ball and click new project. Okay, well, here we go. First one, new project. And we're already thrown up with a box, and it's got tabs and drop down menus and all sorts, and can kind of look quite intimidating. Now I'm just going to go very briefly what these mean, just so you can put your mind at rest. The options on here are generally to do with timecode, and timecode is a way that computers and editing packages can organize footage and look at it. It's literally a code in time, so we can see when something was shot, and this generally comes into play when you've got multiple cameras shooting lots of different angles, or longer projects where you need to be very organized in terms of the type of footage and the timings. If you're syncing anything up, timecode can be really useful. But generally, if you're just editing your home movie, some footage you shot yourself, I wouldn't worry too much about it at all. So we've got video, audio, timecodes, and we can just change the format, but just leave them as they are. Once again, capture format harks back to the days when we used to capture tape and bring that into editing software. Generally, if you're working with footage that was shot on cards, so SD cards, compact flash cards, you're going to bring that in a minute, so you can just leave that well alone. The one that is worth mentioning is if you have an NVIDIA GPU, you want to just make sure that Mercury Playback Engine GPU acceleration, CUDA, is selected. It's just going to make editing more snappy, quicker for certain effects that are GPU accelerated. If you don't have one, it's not going to give you the option, and generally if you do have one, it should pick up and should select it. But if you don't have one, if you do have one, and just double check and make sure it's selected. Now, scratch discs. This is one that always throws people a curveball. And scratch disc, it sounds really important or kind of slightly weird. All the scratch discs are temporary files that are created when you're working on a project that allow you to preview your video. So rather than having to export it or render it, it allows you to preview it, but the computer has to save that somewhere, and it refers to these as scratch discs. They can be on separate discs, but generally, just temporary files would probably make it a little bit more understandable, and that's all they are, just those temporary files. Generally, have them captured or keep them in the same place as your projects. I think the default is actually to put them in your documents folder, but if you're like me, use your documents folder for keeping your Word documents or your Excel spreadsheets, you probably don't want to keep them there. It's better to keep them in the same area as your project. And we're going to come on to where to save your projects in just a minute. Captured video and captured audio doesn't even come into play unless you're capturing from tape, and so it's just the video previews and audio previews that I would select same as project. Just have them all same as project. Generally works pretty well. Now, if we just go back to this tab. Now, the location and name, this is quite important, and it comes down to workflow. What's workflow? Okay, well, workflow is literally how your work flows, and how you can think of it, how easy it flows or how difficult it flows. And generally, if you're working on video projects, you want to have them in some sort of organized, structured way, so you can come back to them and find bits and work on them at points in the future nice and easily. Even if you're not going to work on them, you just want to find them at some point. Having them in an organized manner is really important. If you're doing this commercially or for clients, even it's sort of an absolute essential, because you don't want to be wasting time looking for stuff that's spread all around on different discs and everything. So I'm just going to show you how I do it for mine, and this is just literally my personal things. I have dedicated discs, so I've got a multimedia disc here which I keep all pictures and photos, and these are backed up on various other discs, but I'm just going to show you this particular working disc. So I literally have 2 folders in the root of this this hard disk, and one is for photos, one is for videos. So let's go into the video projects, and you'll see here that this is then broken down into years. So we've got 2013, and as we're in 2014 now, we've got 2014 folder. So let's go into 2013, which is obviously when I purchased this disk, and it begins in August. We have months. So if I want to have a look and say October, well, then I've got one project that I did in October. So let's just go back to a slightly better one, which I've got a few in. Here we go. And you'll see that they're organized in chronological order, and I just use a simple way of organizing them by putting the date in reverse order. So you've got the year, the month, the day, and then the title of the project. And that just means they get organized chronologically and are really easy to find. So let's just come out of that and let's create a new one. Okay, so let's go back. I know it's a video project I'm working on. I know it's 2014, it's March, and there's one I created earlier here. Let's just delete that for the moment, and let's create it again. So we're going to go new folder, and then we're going to call this Prem First Use Test. Getting weird caps going on here. There we go, that's better. And then we're going to select this folder, because that's the folder we want to use. Select, and you'll now see that the project is going to be saved in that folder. If we go back to the scratch disks, remember those? We said same as project. Well, you'll see that it's going to save any video previews in video projects. 2014, March, 2014-03-31, Prem First Use Test, the one we just created. Great. And then all we're going to do is give the project a name. So generally I will call my projects the same as the folder that they are. So it's going to be Prem First Use Test. Now, there's no need to put the date in front of that, because we've already put it in the folder. This is just the name of the project. So we click OK. Now, before we come on to this one, the new sequence, the one that looks really scary and has got lots of weird numbers and all sorts in, we're just going to go back to having a look. Go to that multimedia drive. It's almost full. Just as well I got a new one. Video projects, 2014, March, Prem First Use Test, and if we look in there, we've got Prem First Use Test.proj. This is an Adobe Premiere project that we've just created. So our project exists. It's in a nice organized folder. And you'll also see that we've got Adobe Premiere Pro preview files. And that's your scratch disk there. That's created next to the project. So you can see it's all in one nice organized place. Let's get back to Premiere. Okay, so now, this is your sequence settings, and this is the final screen before we actually get into the interface, before we see all the panels and all the toys that we can play with. And this is the one that probably confuses people the most. All this is, literally as it says at the top, is sequence presets. Okay, and all this allows you to do is depending on the type of footage that you've shot, allows you to set a preset or select a preset, and Premiere will set up a sequence. A sequence is a collection of clips, titles, whatever you want to create that can then be exported as a final video. So we have to create a sequence before we can start putting video and titles and all sorts in, and Premiere wants to know what type of footage we used. So say we shot this on Canon 5D Mark III. That's a digital SLR. And what do we do? Well, we did 1080p, yeah, I remember that. And I think we shot it at 25 frames a second. Well, okay, let's select that. And you'll see up in the preset description, it tells you, recorded in 1920 by 1080, excuse me, progressive HD, 16:9 aspect ratio at 25 frames a second. So we could select that and we could click OK, and that would create us a new sequence. So let's go ahead and do that. We know that, let's say for in this instance, we know what we shot it in, and that's what it is. So we're going to call this sequence, I don't know, first edit home movie. And then we click OK. Premiere will now begin to load up, and whoa, boom, there we go. That's the interface that we've been spending 11 minutes working towards, and we're finally here. We'll see we've got a sequence here in the project panel, and if let's just bring some footage in. So let's bring some in here. This is just a clip. Now, we've got a sequence, and the sequence exists on the timeline, which is over here. There's nothing on it at the moment because we haven't put anything on it. So let's take our video file and let's bring it across. Now, here we go. It says the clip does not match the sequence settings. Change sequence to match the clip settings. So even if you thought you knew what your footage was and then you bring it in and it's actually not, Premiere will pick that up and will allow you to change that. So this footage that I'm bringing in was actually shot at 24 frames a second, and if you remember, we just selected 25 frames a second. So Premiere has noticed that there is a mismatch. So I can go change sequence settings, and there you go. It allows me to bring it in, and let's just go have a look at the sequence settings, and we'll see that it's changed it from 25, which we selected, to 24. Okay, the time base here 23.976, which is 24 frames a second, and it's changed the sequence to match that. Okay, let's click OK to that. Let's just delete this for a second, and we'll delete the sequence, and we'll delete that. There's a great little workaround. So let's go and have a new project. Okay, now we were presented with the new sequence screen, and let's say we haven't got a clue. I don't know what I've been given. I couldn't even hazard a guess. So rather than putting anything in here, let's just cancel that. You'll see that Premiere opens okay. We don't have anything. We don't have any timeline. But let's bring in some footage. And then what we can do is we can take this clip, we can drag it down onto this icon here, and it's like the page with the corner upturned. Okay, it's not the folder icon, it's not the bin, it's the one with the page upturned. Just before I do that, if you hover your mouse over it, you'll see it says new item. This is a new bin, something completely different, and they look very similar, so just make sure you're dragging it across onto the one that looks like a piece of paper with the corner folded up. And if we let go, well, hang on a sec, a sequence has just appeared. What Premiere has done is it's taken that footage and it's created a new sequence based on that footage settings, and it's done it all for you. So this scary let's just click no to that. New project, okay. This scary screen here that always kind of throws people off and they don't know what to click and all the rest of it. This is the one we can actually click cancel to, and Premiere will load up. We can bring our footage in, and then all we need to do is drag that down onto the little page with the corner upturned, let go, and it will create our sequence for us. And there we go. Took us 15 minutes, but we're there, and we can now start playing with the footage. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Cheers.